The first red flag wasn't the security guard giving me that apologetic look like I just walked into my own funeral. It wasn't even my access card going dead in my hand. No, the real punch to the gut came when I opened the door to my lab and found some kid sitting at my desk, feet up, drinking from a mug that read "World's #1 Innovator." I'm Lucas Parker, 47 years old, and 3 months ago I was running this chip design lab. My name was on the door, the patents, the prototype schedules. I was the guy who built the AI processing architecture that kept this startup alive when our Series A looked like a train wreck on Sand Hill Road. The kid looked up with this smug grin and said, "You must be Lucas. I'm Caleb Morrison, the new director of innovation." New director? I blinked twice. 5 years ago, I was the one who walked into this concrete bunker of oscilloscopes and circuit boards. I'd poured everything into this place. 20-hour days, missed family dinners, 2 Christmases spent debugging fabrication issues. Now Caleb, with his fresh MBA and cheap cologne, was sitting in my chair like it was always his. He stood up with theatrical pity and pulled out a manila envelope from my desk drawer. HR wanted to handle this formally, but I figured it'd be more efficient this way. "Welcome back from vacation. Consider yourself already replaced." Inside the envelope were termination papers, severance clauses, pre-filled with the kind of insulting number you offer someone you assume won't fight back. I didn't yell or slam the door. I just smiled, grabbed his cheap pen from the mug, and signed the visitor log, not the exit form. Handed it back to security and asked if I needed an escort out. The guard just buzzed me through like he'd been rehearsing it for weeks. I drove home with that envelope riding shotgun like a dead weight. Didn't call anyone, didn't break down, just parked, walked into my apartment, poured myself a whiskey, and pulled out my original employment contract from the filing cabinet. Clause 9.3. I hadn't thought about it in years. Hidden between vacation accrual and non-disclosure agreements was the sentence I'd fought to insert 5 years ago when they were desperate and I still had leverage. All research and patentable work shall remain property of the originating party unless explicitly transferred. I read it twice as the ice cubes melted in my glass. There were no transfer documents. Not then, not now. I hadn't just originated the research. I was the research. Every line of code, every circuit diagram, every fabrication spec, every patent application with L. Parker scrawled across the bottom. 6 filings in total, and not one with a transfer of rights. They had no idea what they'd done. While Caleb was busy printing business cards and pretending to understand semiconductor physics, they'd just fired the one person holding the keys to their entire IP kingdom. I wasn't going to storm the gates, though. I was going to let them walk straight into the fire, blindfolded. I sat in my kitchen going through everything. The termination papers spread across the table, and in the middle of it all sat that piece of paper I'd written with surgical precision 5 years ago. Clause 9.3 sounded so dry, but I remembered everything about negotiating it. 3rd meeting with their founding attorney. I was nobody with a PhD and a pipeline of chip designs that could revolutionize AI processing. They were a hot mess of ambition and venture capital fumes. They wanted speed, I wanted protection. So I slid that clause across the table and said, "If this company gets bought or goes belly up, I want my name on what I built." The lawyer raised an eyebrow, but I held my ground. I went hunting through old emails, Slack archives, that dusty box labeled work stuff in my closet. I pulled every filing I'd submitted to the USPTO. 6 patents, all tied to the same core tech, a neural processing unit architecture for AI acceleration. Dry, nerdy stuff to most people, but to investors it was gold-plated revenue potential. Each application had my name, just mine. No transfer docs, no co-signatures, no reassignment of rights. It was like they never thought I'd leave, never thought I mattered enough for them to protect themselves. I opened LinkedIn and searched for the company's page. Nothing about my departure. Just some corporate nonsense about leadership transformation and next-gen pipeline expansion under Caleb Morrison. Then I found their latest press release. They were preparing for Series C, $40 million. $40 million based on a chip architecture whose IP had never been signed over, whose foundational research was still sitting under my name in the federal database. It wasn't just theft, it was identity theft. I reached for my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. "Michelle, it's Lucas Parker. You still doing IP litigation?" A pause. "Lucas, thought you fell off the map. I was on sabbatical. I'm back now. And I've got something you're going to want to see." Michelle and I met the next morning at a diner near the university. Same place we used to go when I was begging for pro bono help during my postdoc days. She ordered black coffee and eggs. I slid a file across the table. She opened it, eyes moving from clause to patent to filing date. "You still have all this? I don't throw away leverage." She leaned back, coffee in hand. "This clause is clean." They screwed up monumentally. We just stared at the ticking time bomb between us, both knowing exactly how this would play out if we were patient. Because IP theft only hurts when it's public. And these fools were about to go very public. I didn't storm the gates. That would have been too easy, too loud. I did something much more dangerous. I got quiet. I let them forget I existed. That's the best camouflage in corporate America. Silence. Behind that silence, I was tracking everything. I created a burner email, subscribed to every investor newsletter I could find, set up Google, alerts for Series C, chip architecture, Caleb Morrison, and my personal favorite, my own name, Lucas Parker. Every ping felt like a drumbeat. Not yet, not yet, not yet. 2 weeks later, the first real hit came through. An industry blog posted a teaser for an upcoming investor conference. Breakthrough Semiconductor to announce game-changing AI platform at Series C roundtable. 40M on the table. No company name, but the phrasing was familiar. Too familiar. I clicked through, scanned the slide screenshots embedded in the post. Slide 4. There it was. A diagram showing processing efficiency rates in neural networks. The same one I built 2 years ago using my own experimental data. Same font, same layout. My initials were still watermarked in the bottom right corner, LPV3. Not removed, just overlooked like I was nothing more than a former employee who wouldn't notice her own fingerprints on the murder weapon. I downloaded the deck, archived it, sent it to Michelle with a short message. Let them keep going. The higher they climb, the harder they'll fall. She replied 2 minutes later, "Copy that." Michelle and I started cataloging everything like we were building a case for the Supreme Court. I tracked every press release, every pitch announcement, every conference attendance. If Caleb sneezed near a tech blog, I knew about it before the tissue hit the floor. I created a timeline, just a basic spreadsheet at first, then layered it with links, timestamps, and correlating patent references. They weren't just using my work, they were building on it, layering buzzwords like neural harmony and cognitive acceleration onto what I'd already tested, refined, and locked into filings the company never owned. The best part? They had no idea. They thought I was done, that I'd walked out like a good little cog, accepted my box of belongings and pathetic severance. I went back through their SEC form disclosures. The Series C was real. They'd already pulled in a few million in commitments. That meant due diligence, paperwork, outside firms examining my patents and either not connecting the dots or about to. When the right investor started asking the wrong questions, boom, Michelle and I decided to wait until after the investor pitch was over, maximize exposure. She flagged a contact in one of the auditing firms likely to be involved. Not an accusation, just a tip, a little breadcrumb. Meanwhile, I watched Caleb on a live stream panel hosted by a mid-tier VC firm. He wore that same smug, ill-fitting confidence like a borrowed tux, talking about disruptive neural frontiers and the genius of our team's legacy work. Legacy. He was talking about me. That smug little smile on his face as he answered softball questions from sycophantic moderators was the exact smile he wore when he handed me my termination papers. By May, Caleb was being treated like Steve Jobs in a hoodie. Every tech publication was running the same regurgitated narrative. Caleb Morrison, the visionary, behind TechCore's IP portfolio, leads the charge into AI's golden age. Visionary. The man couldn't debug a Hello World program, but he sure knew how to wear a blazer and nod thoughtfully on stage. CEO Owen Walsh started referring to Caleb in public statements as the architect of our next-gen platform. Not a contributor, not a leader, the architect. As if Caleb had personally soldered every transistor while humming the Star-Spangled Banner. When I tried the official route, filing a request for neutral arbitration just to clarify IP rights, HR ghosted me. No response, nothing. The same department that used to send me passive-aggressive birthday e-cards now couldn't find the reply button. After the third unanswered email, I had Michelle send one from her firm's domain just to make things spicy. We received a curt response from legal within 24 hours. At this time, the company believes all obligations to Mr. Parker have been fulfilled. Fulfilled like a box of Amazon regrets. Michelle's advice: let them cook. They're using proprietary materials and publicly promoted assets, and now they've been officially notified. That's going to matter. I reached out to Rachel Williams, my old assistant. Smart woman, sharper than most of the exec team, and loyal until the reorganization shuffled her over to some culture and communications team that reported to HR. We hadn't spoken since I was let go. I assumed she'd been told to keep her distance, but when I sent her a message through Signal, she responded in less than a minute. "Lucas, thought you disappeared. I was told to." "Yeah, well, Caleb said you took a buyout." I almost spit my coffee. "A what?" "Yeah, he told the staff you were done, said you'd moved on to better things. Can you still access the internal decks?" Pause. "I shouldn't, but can you?" "The slides for next month's investor conference are already in final review. Does it include the NPU architecture?" "Yes, with efficacy data. Send me a screenshot." 3 hours later, a cropped image showed up in my inbox. Slide 7. The same delivery method I pioneered, slightly rebranded, but my test groups, my dosage timeline, even my original label formatting intact. They hadn't even bothered to change the color scheme. She added one line. "They're calling it Morrison's Neural Cascade." I closed my laptop before I put a hole in the drywall. He wasn't just stealing my work. He was retrofitting it with his name like some tech Frankenstein. Everyone at the company was going along with it because nobody wanted to be the one who pointed out the Emperor was wearing my lab coat. Rachel messaged again. "They're presenting at Tech Now West, June 9th, main stage. CEO and Caleb both speaking." That was it. That was the unpublishable thing. A high-profile investor pitch under live stream using IP they didn't own. They'd be marketing my science under false pretenses to venture funds, hedge groups, and pharmaceutical execs who'd eat a scandal alive if it meant sinking a competitor's round. I called Michelle immediately. "Got our window. Mark your calendar for June 9th. Her voice didn't even crack. Showtime. 2 weeks before Tech Now West, Michelle sent a single envelope with no return address to a law firm known for conducting IP due diligence on behalf of big-ticket investors. Inside was a curated sampler platter of receipts. Screenshots of pitch decks, patent numbers, lab notebook scans, copy of the original employment contract with clause 9.3 highlighted in neon yellow like the world's most passive-aggressive warning sign. We didn't sign it, didn't watermark it, just enough to make someone uncomfortable. 3 days later, the ripple began. Due diligence teams are like bloodhounds with MBAs. You don't need to tell them what to find. Just give them a whiff of a problem and they'll start digging like it's bonus season. The whisper about TechCore's IP landed somewhere inside Halpern and Wright LLP, the boutique firm handling Series C for Caleb's crew. All it took was one associate cross-referencing patent filings with USPTO data. Suddenly, the architect of innovation was sitting on blueprints he didn't draft. First they spotted my name, then my initials, then my timestamps, then 6 filings. Every one of them listing Lucas Parker as the sole inventor. No co-signers, no assignments, just me. The lone originator of the company's entire neural processing platform. Things started unraveling like a bad sweater in a wind tunnel. The firm reached out to TechCore's in-house legal team with some routine clarifications. Innocent little questions like, "Can you confirm the IP assignment for patent number 674,492B? Do you have documentation showing transfer of rights from Dr. Parker to TechCore?" Internal panic. Legal replied with vague hand-waving, asking for more time, citing internal reviews. But internally they were flailing because someone finally realized they'd built a $40 million house of cards on a patent portfolio they didn't own. Worse, they'd pitched it, broadcast it, sold it to investors under someone else's name, mine. That's when the emails started. Frantic late-night pings from the general counsel to Owen Walsh, who was halfway through a leadership retreat in the Rockies with his second wife and their yoga instructor. He didn't respond at first, probably thought it was another compliance fire he could douse with a memo and a whiskey. Then legal sent the message. Screenshots from the auditors showing my patents, my initials, my work. Timestamp 3:14 a.m. Eastern. The email header said it all. Urgent, patent exposure, potential ownership discrepancy, action required immediately. Too late. The investor teams were already in contact with external counsel. The questions were out in the open now, and they couldn't be answered with buzzwords or Caleb's smug slide decks. This wasn't about miscommunication anymore. It was about potential fraud. Then it came. A calendar invite. Subject: Emergency Board Call, Patent Review Issue. Participants: CEO, Legal, Board, Chair, General Counsel, External IP Counsel, and me, Lucas Parker. Not former employee, not disgruntled ex. Invite status: required. I read it twice before forwarding it to Michelle with a one-line message. Told you they'd come knocking. She responded with a popcorn emoji. I should have felt nervous, vindicated, angry. Instead, I felt composed, calm, like the eye of a storm I had mapped out 6 weeks ago and watched crawl toward them inch by inch. I took the day before the meeting to print everything. Contracts, patents, screenshots, the napkin sketch of my neural cascade I'd drawn 3 years ago in a diner at 2 a.m. with coffee and insomnia for company. I organized the binder, labeled every tab. There would be no confusion, no ambiguity. Caleb thought I was a ghost. Tomorrow, I'd be the Reaper. The board call started exactly at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern with the kind of sterile punctuality that only true panic can achieve. I dialed in from Michelle's office, camera off, microphone muted, binder open beside me like a loaded weapon. Michelle sat across from me, sipping something herbal and deadly. Her posture was relaxed. Mine was stone. The first 10 minutes were corporate kabuki theater. Warm greetings, stilted chuckles, nervous throat clearing from legal like someone trying to break bad news to a mafia don without getting shot. Owen Walsh joined from Colorado, his background a pixelated blur of expensive glassware and bad decisions. Caleb was on too, audio only, which was probably wise. Cowards blink first. I understand we have an issue requiring immediate attention, Board Chair Catherine Stone began, her tone clipped and surgical. Yes. Thanks, Catherine, General Counsel stammered. As you may be aware, during the final stages of investor due diligence, several questions emerged regarding the proprietary status of our neural processing IP, specifically the patents associated with the NPU platform. He was trying to keep it vague, ambiguous, like maybe the documents were just misfiled or a clerical error had occurred. Some intern had spilled Red Bull on a signature page. Oopsie daisy. Then the external counsel cleared her throat. I've reviewed all available documentation provided by TechCore's legal team. May I read a section from Dr. Parker's original employment agreement, please? Please, the board chair said. The lawyer didn't pause. Clause 9.3. All research and patentable work shall remain property of the originating party unless explicitly transferred in writing. There are no such transfer documents in the file TechCore has submitted. Furthermore, all 6 core patents tied to the NPU platform list Dr. Lucas Parker as the sole inventor and owner with no legal reassignment on record. Silence. Then Owen's voice came through the speaker, croaky, disoriented. What does that mean? Legal hesitated. This was the moment, the line where news tightens or someone cuts the rope. He chose honesty. Too late, but still honest. It means he owns the patents. All of them. The silence that followed was so pure, so oxygenless, you could hear the collective sphincter of an entire boardroom tightening through the fiber optic cables. Someone muttered, "Jesus Christ." Another voice, a younger board member, maybe a VC analyst, asked, "Then what have we been pitching?" That's when I unmuted. The square around my face lit up on their grid like a loaded chamber. I let the silence hang for just a second longer, then looked straight into the camera. "The truth," I said, voice flat. "You've been pitching the truth. You just forgot who it belongs to." All their little zoom squares blinked in my periphery like frightened game pieces. Caleb's remained dark. Coward. Owen tried to salvage it. "Lucas, I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. We can work something out. There's room at the table for everyone." "Don't," I interrupted. "You had your chance. You handed me a termination packet like I was a lab tech with a caffeine addiction, not the man who built the platform you're selling. Legal attempted damage control. Perhaps we could revisit the severance terms retroactively." "Retroactive severance won't cut it," Michelle said coolly, finally speaking. "What we're discussing now is a licensing agreement. Non-exclusive, time-limited, market rate, indexed annually. More silence. Then from board chair Catherine Stone. So you're saying TechCore doesn't currently own any of the IP we've just spent the last quarter marketing? Michelle answered before I could. That's correct, Owen's voice cracked. We could be sued. Michelle smiled, though they couldn't see it. Only if Lucas feels generous. I watched it all with the same calm expression Caleb wore when he fired me. But unlike Caleb, I had the receipts. I didn't bluff or posture. I just let them hear the sound of their own oxygen running out. The call ended with a promise to reconvene after further internal review. Translation. After they finished vomiting into expensive trash bins and Googling, "Can you reverse pitch IP you don't own?" The offer came less than 48 hours later. A polite, overgroomed email from TechCore's head of legal with the subject line "Reinstatement Proposal, Urgent." No apology in the body, just a lot of high-level corporate niceties designed to sound like a peace offering when it was really a white flag dressed in marketing copy. They wanted me back. Same title, same pay, a new lab. Full control of your team again, as if I was supposed to be flattered by the idea of crawling back into the very cage they tried to bury me in. Michelle read it first. She was already laughing before she finished paragraph 2. I guess this is their version of groveling. I'm not going back, I said. Didn't think so. Instead, we drafted our own terms. A non-exclusive licensing agreement, full access to the NPU platform and related methodologies for a limited duration, 3 years, renewable by mutual consent, all at market rate with annual escalators tied to semiconductor index performance. Retroactive fees due from the day of my termination. Any IP derivative created during that window must be disclosed and reviewed for dependency before internal patent filings. All public materials must now cite licensed under Parker Protocol. We sent it at 8:03 a.m. on a Monday. Legal responded at 3:12 p.m., predictably rattled. This is aggressive, their counsel wrote. No, Michelle replied. This is generous. The board didn't even flinch at a single question about the rate sheet or the licensing window. They knew what the cost of silence was now. Investor interest had already cooled. 2 funds were reassessing alignment. One wanted third-party verification of patent integrity before sending final wire instructions. By Thursday, the agreement was signed. An hour later, I got a new email, this time from HR. A full-page apology signed by someone I'd never met because the original team had apparently transitioned. I read the first 2 lines, skimmed the rest. Corporate remorse language dressed up in empathy robes. Then came the real prize. Attached was a notification of staff change. Caleb Morrison no longer employed by TechCore as of date. No headline, no farewell post on LinkedIn, no gold watch or staged handshake photo. Just gone. I imagined him packing up his standing desk, confused and red-faced, muttering something about misunderstood vision while the new intern handed him a cardboard box. They didn't want the optics of a public firing. That was fine. I wasn't after noise, just leverage. Owen sent a one-liner through legal 2 days later. Glad we could work something out. I didn't respond directly. Michelle sent a PDF with 1 sentence in bold. All future contact must be coordinated through counsel. I wasn't their employee anymore. I was their vendor, a very, very expensive one. I set up Parker Technologies, just me, a paralegal, and project manager Gavin Brooks, who'd left genomics after getting fed up with corporate ping-pong tables and unpaid overtime. Logo, a circuit board folding into a fist. Kind of a joke, kind of not. TechCore signed the vendor onboarding packet a week after the licensing deal closed. Suddenly, the same internal teams that had once copied my slides and slapped Caleb's name on them were now required to submit quarterly feedback reports to me. Every dev roadmap touching NPU had to get reviewed by my firm. Weekly digests arrived with my name in the header. Licensor review notes. Action required. It was like watching your ex try to make lasagna using your grandmother's recipe, except now they had to pay you for every noodle. 6 months later, TechCore closed their Series C at 32 LMs. Reduced valuation, but closed. The licensing fees alone brought in $180K annually for Parker Technologies, with escalators that would hit $250K by year 3. I kept the 15-person team busy with 3 other clients, all semiconductor startups who'd heard about the Parker Protocol and wanted bulletproof IP strategies. Caleb, last I heard he was doing strategic consulting for a blockchain startup in Austin. Owen stepped down as CEO after the board lost confidence. Catherine Stone now runs the company, and every quarterly report prominently features licensed technology partners on page 1. The best part? My name is on every patent derivative they file, every breakthrough they announce, every investor deck they present. I didn't just get my revenge, I became their foundation. And now every time they innovate, they pay me for the privilege. That's not revenge, that's just good business.